Hello, hi, how are you doing? This is Pastor Cheryl. We have been doing a Bible study on John. We're up to John 19, verse 16, the crucifixion. Excuse me. We have a number of ladies that really enjoy this, and so we'll continue. But anyway, with the crucifixion, we'll start out with verse 16, kind of midway, closer to 17. Then they took Jesus away. Carrying the cross by himself, he went out to what is called Place of the Skull, which in Aramaic is called Golgotha. They crucified him and two others with him, one on either side with Jesus in the middle. Pilate had also had a sign made and put on the cross. It said, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. Many of the Jews read this sign because the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. So the chief priests of the Jews said to Pilate, don't write King of the Jews, but that he said, I am the King of the Jews. Pilate replied, what I have written, I have written. So here's Pilate playing along with these guys because they threatened him. Remember, the mob threatened him and was threatening they'll probably take apart the palace and take apart him and his family. And somehow he ended up out there. And you know what? Pilate became a Christian, very devout Christian. When the soldiers crucified Jesus, they took his clothes and divided them into 4 parts, a part for each soldier. They also took the tunic, which was seamless, woven one piece from the top, so that they said to one another, let's not tear it, but cast lots for it, to see who gets it. This happened that the scripture might be fulfilled that says, they divided my clothes amongst themselves, and they cast lots for my clothing. This is what the soldiers did. You know, in the ministry, those of us who are clergy people, and Jesus was a clergy person, he was a rabbi, a teacher. And I'm more of a teacher than a minister, but I'm a minister and a teacher, kind of doing them. I'm doing the same thing. You know, I'm doing the same thing that Jesus was doing, but I'm not traveling that much. We have cars today. And so anyway, people like to mess over clergy people and churches. And so they will find some way of stealing money from a church or you know, overcharging, or they think it's okay to steal from churches because they think, well, the money is going to magically reappear again the next week when the people put their little change, their pocket change in the plate. It doesn't really happen quite like that. The majority of people in churches are seniors, they're elderly, so what they are stealing is Social Security money. That's what we live on. We live on Social Security. You hit 65, you go down to the Social Security office, and you get up on Social Security. They give you a whole bunch of paperwork and say this is what you're allowed, and since your income is below the poverty line, we're going to have to give you a supplement, and I'm waiting for Trump to go after that supplement or something. Food stamps, you know, they cut us way back like $15, $50, $75, thinking we really could live on that, you know? So you really can't mess over a church because you're messing over a whole bunch of old people. It's unethical. And people snicker about that, thinks it's funny to mess over, you know, a pastor who's living on next to nothing, doing the right thing, always doing the right thing. it's unethical to steal from low-income people. It really is. And so, and then with Jesus, they're making up stories. He never said he was the king of the Jews. He never said, I am the king of the Jews. He never said that. There was someone, Palm Sunday, they wanted him to be king. It's a fantasy. He never said that. He was happy being just a teacher. Excuse me here. I just sprayed some perfume in here just to make it smell nice. But anyway, there's always someone. What can you say about that? It's the devil again. It's the devil again. I could tell you stories of crazy stuff that happens, like we have this meditation garden. It was a donated piece of land, and it's too small for a house. It's long and narrow, and it's 30 foot by 130 foot, something like that, 100 foot. It's narrow and deep, and part of it's a hill, so you can't build a house in the hill, and you have to have easement at least 5 feet on either side. And so if a house was built there, it would be long and narrow. Nobody wants to do that. But then they had this clown. Pardon me for being myself, right? He's a character. He's mentally ill. He purchased this shack across the street, and it was just ugly for the longest time. And I took a friend of mine out there who was a minister and said, look at that, I'm afraid to get out of the car because this house looks like a shack, and he doesn't mow the lawn. It just gets up around waist high, and it's full of little trees and weeds and stuff. And there was no siding on the house. It was all pulled off, and it was just wood. Just wood. And so I started complaining to the city because it was really quite the sight, and I thought other people will be afraid to go into the chapel because of his house. And so I would complain to the city, and they got him to clean it up. They got him to mow the lawn. They got him to put siding on the house again. He had siding on it, then he pulled it off, then he put it back on. And so, anyway, he got the city to close the road in front of a chapel. Who does that? Who actually closes a road in front of a chapel or a church, any place of worship? It's a public place. And they called me up and said, oh, well, this is going to be a private little road, the way it should be. And I said, in front of a chapel? Are you kidding? And so I had let city council know, members of city council know that was open to the public, and one of them said, shh, your secret is good with me. It's not a secret. I was running ads in the paper, and this little River City Reader paper, I was running ads, and then during COVID, I was putting up flyers, open 24/7 for prayer, because all the churches were closed. And so now we have worship down there Sundays. We're evolving. But the city knew. I told them, and it was, there was a giant sign I put up there. Couldn't miss that. You had to be blind as a bat. Anyway, and then the River City Reader published ads for us, free ads, every month. And then I started putting it in the Times. And the Times had a church page. And things keep changing. Now they want to charge $1 million to put, a little teeny tiny ad in the church page in the Times and have it going on and on for months and months. And I'm like, our group is all full of handicapped and elderly people. We can't afford that. But the fruitcake that bought the shack across the street did cite it, and now he runs out of the house, and he doesn't live there. He uses it for storage for his business, but he runs out of the house whenever he sees one of our church members go into the garden, into our meditation garden, and screams at him and calls the police. He's into drugs. Remember him in prayer. The guy's out of his mind. And I think the city is out of their mind too for closing the road and putting up with him. We're praying him out of there. It's just 10 years of this. It's too much. Way too much. We have to get our ministry on the road and on the ball, and we can't have the devil standing in the way anymore. Period. But anyway, keep our little meditation garden in prayer. Ring the bell. And give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and we will continue on with where we left off. Bye-bye.